What if right before the biggest moment in your life, right before your breakthrough, right before everything in the world changes, what if you decide to quit? Today I want to talk about the idea of finishing the job, not just talking about it, not just starting something, but actually following through and finishing. Because so few people are good at it. How often do people follow through on the things they say they want to get done versus quit right before they're on the edge of greatness? How many times have you heard people tell you about $1 million idea they have, a dream, a goal, something big that they have in their mind or their heart that they want to achieve, they want to accomplish, and all it takes is a little bit of work. All it takes is some effort and planning and consistency. How often do those people achieve the things that they set out to do? And then how often are you that person? How often are you the very person who says they want to do something but doesn't actually follow through and achieve, as opposed to gets the job done every single time? How often are you that person that says you're going to get it and goes out and actually does, versus being the person who talks about it but never lives up to it? There's a big difference between the person who talks a good game versus actually walks it. Between the person who says they want it versus does the things it takes in order to achieve that dream. And so today we want to talk about the idea of finishing what you started. Not just talking about it, not just beginning it, not just doing a little bit of work, having a little bit of effort, but seeing the thing through. Finishing, going all the way to the end until you get the job done. Recognizing that failure is a part of the process, and even though it is, you're still built for it and you're gonna make it happen because you're like that. What if right at the biggest moment of your life, right before your breakthrough, right before you're ready to achieve the things that you set out to do, you quit? What happens when you give up right when you're on the cusp of greatness? It happens all the time. It happens far too often. And today we want to talk about how exactly you do everything in your power to avoid that. Because so often when you're on the cusp of greatness, when you're right there close to your breakthrough, it doesn't feel like it. And so once again, having that ever important perspective is going to be the thing, the driving force that makes sure that you don't give up. There is something to be said about the person who pushes through and gets the job done. In order to be the man, you got to be able to defeat them. But how can you do it if you aren't doing the things it takes in order to get you there and then pushing through until the end, until you get the job done? So often we talk about the things that are important to us. We say what matters. We talk about dreams. We ideate on things that are so important. But how often are we willing to put forth the action? How often are we willing to do what it takes to get the job done? And it wouldn't be fair, but could you imagine if just for a moment you were able to see just how close you were to whatever your breakthrough is? How near you were to beginning the momentum that changes your life? If you could literally see the timeline, the progression of where you are and how close you are to being there, you would never quit. You would know that with just a little bit more, you could keep going. Well, unless something massive changes in the next few years, you're never going to get that. You're never going to be able to see exactly where you are. So on some level, you got to be working with some faith. And of course, we know it's not literally possible to see what that progress is. So knowing that you'll never be able to actually see it, there has to be something inside of you that pushes you and keeps you going forward even when it doesn't feel like it. Because there is a difference between the person who gets the job done and who quits right before it. Their mindset is different. The way they think is different. The things that are going on, ruminating inside of their brain, are different. So what's going on inside of your head? What are you thinking? What are you giving energy to? What are you telling yourself about the things you need to get done? How urgent is it to you? How urgent have you made it? How diligent and dedicated have you been to creating a plan and a schedule? If you haven't, how serious can you really be? If we're being honest, ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody has them. Everybody has something that they want to do. Many people even have a dream, something that they're passionate about and that they want to achieve. But how many people are willing to do what it takes in order to get it done? When we're talking about achieving something special, doing something that's off the Richter scale, something that hasn't been done, something innovative, something genius, you gotta have something different in you. You gotta be thinking different. You gotta move different because you're looking for a different result. If you want the average life, if you want the basic, you can do what everybody else does. But if you want more, if you know you're dedicated and committed to something greater, you gotta give it to yourself by putting forth the action. That's the only way it's going to happen. And so many people want the results without going through the process, without the building and developing and weathering the storms in order to develop you into the person that it'll take in order to be there. And not only be there, but to stay there. If you haven't weathered the storms, if you haven't been through anything, how can you finish? And how can you push through when things get hard? For sure, things will get tough. For sure, things will get hard. How can you weather a storm if you've never even been through one? On the other hand, if you're used to weathering storms, if it's what you do, if in the middle of that storm, in the middle of that turmoil, and in the midst of that pain or whatever it is, if you're able to remain calm, focused, faith-filled, how could you not win? So few people are willing to have that mindset. So few people know how to tap into their own psyche in order to get themselves to do what needs to be done. And if you could be one of the few who do, sky is the limit. What limits are you setting for yourself? What are you telling yourself is possible? What reality are you creating for yourself by either taking the actions and being deliberate or not? When we talk to our elders, the number one thing they talk about when they look back on their lives is regret. The things they didn't do, the opportunities they missed out on, the chances they didn't go for, and the things they didn't give their all on. You knew you could have done something, but you didn't. You knew you should have asked her out, but you didn't. You knew you should have gone for that job, but you didn't. And so forget about whose fault it is that you didn't start. Whose responsibility is it? Whose life is on the line? Whose future is in the balance? Whose destiny is literally hanging in the wings of the action they decide to take? That will be you. That will be yours. And you owe it to yourself to give yourself the best shot at becoming your best self and living up to that destiny that you know is within you. Don't just be another talker. Don't just be another dreamer. Don't just be another person who ruminates and always has words to say but does very little and achieves very little in the way of results. I want you to be different. I want you to be better. I want you to recognize that it's going to take action and discipline and dedication and weathering storms, but you're built for it. You're made for it. And even if you feel like you aren't right now, going through it will build you for it. But you must finish. You must push through if you hope to be different. Over here we talk a lot about the battle between light and darkness, good and evil. Well, let's be honest. The worst people on earth are never going to quit. They're always going to follow through and finish the job. So you as the best, you as the light, got to also do the same. You got to keep that same energy when it comes to finishing and following through. If you know for a fact that others are looking at you, maybe it's a sibling, maybe it's a loved one, maybe it's an entire community, you gotta finish and follow through just so others can see. Part of being the light is letting others see what it looks like to finish the job, to get it done, and to not make excuses. Sometimes you take an L, how do you bounce back? Sometimes you don't win, what do you react like? It's up to you. What are you telling yourself? What are you doing about it? And how long will you sit on that dream before you make it into a reality? 9 times out of 10, there's somebody who's done the thing you're trying to do, or at least left some kind of a blueprint. That means we know for a fact that it's possible. And if they haven't done it and you're trying to become a revolutionary, that's even more reason why you got to take the action. Even more reason why you got to be dedicated, disciplined, and focused, because you're blazing the path that's never been seen before, done before, walked before. How can you be different if you move the same? If you're just like the rest, what are you doing? How are you thinking? How are you living? It starts with action. It starts with planning. And it starts with moving with purpose. If we know there's a blueprint to success, there's someone or something that you can do in order to replicate it. When we're talking about success, it leaves footprints. It leaves clues, which means that you can follow in the footsteps of others in order to achieve the greatness you want to. And even if you feel like everything isn't there, you could get started. Once you get started, once you get the ball rolling, maybe the momentum that you need will start to snowball as you go. Sometimes you got to build the plane as you fly it. But if you're not willing to start, then you can't get going with the process. And if you aren't willing to love and embrace the process, how can you finish the job? All of the above that I just mentioned starts up here. It starts in the mind. But what are you telling yourself? How clean are you allowing your thoughts to be? Who are you allowing to influence you? And what are you telling yourself? What's the narrative that's going on inside of your head? Is it one of urgency? Is it one of patience? Is it one of, I have all day, so I'm going to take all day? Are you going to keep kicking the can down the road? If you know that the future isn't promised and the past is already gone, what are you doing with this beautiful gift of the present? It's called pushing through. It's called finishing the job. It's called making sure you honor the gifts that you've been blessed with. Why would those thoughts and dreams ever even be a part of your brain, your energy, your soul, if you weren't meant to do something with them? And to sit on that and do nothing with it is such a crime against yourself. It's not a path you want to go down. You got to be careful about slowly watching your dreams die. And that's the worst part about it. It's often slow. Oftentimes when it comes to our dreams, it's not a one-day thing where the door slams shut and we can never get it. And that might be the most powerful thing about our dreams. There's so many different chances where we can get it. Day after week, after month, after year is another chance for you to keep getting it. Every single moment that you got breath in your lungs, you could be going out and getting it. But what are you doing? How are you honoring the gift of time that you've been given? Because not everybody has it. If you look at your life throughout the entire history of mankind, it's like a tiny grain of sand amongst an ocean. It's small, which means you only got a limited amount of time, a little bit of it, to do what you need to while you're here. What are you doing with it? How precious are you treating it? If you thought like that, you will move as emergency. If you knew you didn't have forever, every single day that you live is one less day that you have in order to get closer to those dreams. What are you doing with it? We often create narratives in our mind, and we use confirmation bias in order to confirm or affirm the things we already believe. If you're telling yourself you can't do it, you won't. If you're telling yourself it's going to take too long, it will. If you're telling yourself you can keep kicking the can down the road, if you're telling yourself do it tomorrow, you will. If you're telling yourself you'll have more time, you will. If you keep telling yourself do it later, you will. If you keep telling yourself it's not that important to get done right now, that's the way you'll think and move, because your thought does precede your action. What are you telling yourself in order to build that sense of urgency? Because without it, how will you get things done? If you feel like you have till forever, you're going to take till forever. If you've ever heard of Parkinson's law, it's a psychological theory that says anytime we're given a task, we stretch it out to fit whatever time we've been given to achieve it. If you have 3 hours to do something, you take the 3 hours as opposed to getting it done right away. Well, the problem with moving and thinking like that is, in life, you don't know how much time you have. It may seem like you have day after day, and oftentimes you do, but things change quickly. And when life gets to lifing and you no longer have the time or freedom to do what you do, you're going to look back and regret the times that you didn't. So handle business right now or forever hold that regret. It's up to you. Still, for free, you get to choose. But what are you choosing for yourself? How are you showing up for yourself and showing you that love back that you know you're worthy of? What are you telling yourself? Because to have greatness in you and not honor that blessing, that's the real tragedy. That's the real crime. That's the real shame. And that's what we want to avoid. Even in the darkness, in fact, especially in the darkness, in the times where you're being tested the most, when you push through, that's what's going to make you better. That's what's going to turn you into that beast. And that's what's going to give you what it takes in order to push through and finish the job. Most people don't finish because things get a little bit tough. But the things that are tough are exactly what it takes to finish. The thing that it takes to push through and get you to the next step is probably the thing that it's going to take to prepare you to finish, to prepare you to close, and prepare you to ultimately stay at the top. But what are you doing, and how are you preparing yourself? If you're preparing yourself to quit, if you're getting practice giving up, you'll become a quitter. You'll learn to give up. You'll learn to accept failure and losing, and not in a good way. Because sometimes you do got to take L's in the smaller battle. But in the grand scheme of things, we don't want you learning and building the habit of losing because it's not necessary. There's enough people in the world who are willing to accept losing at that level. It doesn't have to be you. So let's not make it that way. In a future video, I'm going to talk about the power of faith. But why have faith if in the moments of darkness, you don't use it? What's the point of having faith, belief in a higher power or the universe or whoever you feel is watching over you if in those darkest moments you let it all go? No, it's because when things are darkest, that's when your face shines the brightest. The truth of the matter is, when you're working on something great, when you're building something special, when you're starting a revolution, when you're doing something that's never been done, there's going to be people shooting arrows at you. There's going to be people trying to tear you down because they don't want to see you do better than them. They don't want to see you do the thing. They got 1,000,001 reasons, and it really don't even matter why. All you got to do is stay laser focused on the task at hand, because they are. They're focused on the hate. They're focused on tearing you down. The negativity, the storms, all of it would love to tear you down. But if you know for a fact that you've been tapped on the shoulder by something or someone much higher, much more powerful, that destiny, that fate, you can't let go. You can't give up, and you gotta keep pushing till you get the job done. By the way, you are human. You will fail. You will have hard times. You will have things that test you and make you want to quit. I'm not saying that negativity and bad won't happen. In fact, I'm saying for sure it's gonna come. But what do you do with it? What are you telling yourself? What are the narratives that are going on inside of your head? Because for sure you're telling yourself something. For sure you're believing something. For sure something, whether internal or external, is influencing the way you respond. But what is it? Is it driven by faith, or is it driven by fear? Are you moving in a way that is hesitant and worrisome? Or are you moving in a way that is confident and full of faith? Which one would you rather go against? Which one sounds like I could defeat that person? The person who's full of faith, full of confidence, and dedicated and committed and willing to not just talk about it, but do the work it takes in order to be prepared? For sure you would rather not face that person as opposed to the one who's always making excuses, always coming up with dreams, always saying words, but never following through or delivering, right? The beautiful struggle of life is a gift, and it's preparing you for greater. It's preparing you for the next level. But you got to push through, and you got to look at it that way. Sometimes things aren't even that hard. You just got to do a little bit to push through. But are you willing to do it? Because when you're right there on the cusp of a breakthrough, right there on the edge of a greatness, it might feel like you've never been further from it. But if the reality is you're right there, what are you going to do? Are you going to give in to the negative thoughts? Are you going to give in to the doubt? Or are you going to allow faith to drive your mission? You could focus on worry, or you could believe that you wouldn't even have this dream in you if it wasn't meant to be. And because the beauty of being human is that you will fail, it's not a matter of if, but when. How do you react to it? Do you get back up? Do you tell yourself, maybe you took an L today, but you can go back to the drawing board. You can reevaluate. You can rethink. You can come up with new ideas. You can think of a better plan. You can be more dedicated, more disciplined. There was plenty of holes in your game. Or do you tell yourself, and that turns into momentum? A day becomes a week becomes a year, and before you know it, you look up and you haven't lived the life that you knew you were capable of. And so how dare you spit on the very dreams that you've been given? Not everybody has it in them, and if you do, you gotta honor it. The beauty and tragedy of closing is that so few people are gonna do it. Partially because they're not willing to, partially because they're not able to, partially because they don't have the perspective to realize you were right there. You just had to go a little bit further. Oftentimes when you think you're the most tired, you're really not as tired as you think you are. If you ever talk to any runner or high-level athlete, when you're running that 5K or 10K, when you're on that 5th or 6th mile, it may feel like you're exhausted and you don't have anything left to go, but somehow, some way, you get the job done every single time. When you talk to a long-distance runner, oftentimes when you're running, it may feel like you're too tired to keep going. You don't have it in you. Just a little bit more is going to be a little bit too much. And that's not to say that while you're running it, you won't feel tired. You won't feel sore. You won't even question yourself and want to quit. It's natural, human even. But just because you feel like quitting, or maybe you think that you can't do it, doesn't mean that that's reality. Maybe it's what you feel in a moment, but that moment will pass. And once it does, the storm that is you will come racing on and you'll get the job done. But you got to go through the storm and weather the storm in order to become one. What are you doing? But what storms are you willing to weather and push through in order to get to the other side? We often hear people talk about becoming a jack of all trades, doing a bunch of different things, a little bit good, kind of well, but never actually being a master of one. What if you flip the dynamic? What if in order to become a closer, what if in order to finish the task at hand, maybe instead of trying a million different things at once, you pick one thing and you go full force. You go 1,000% in, full effort, full stop, and you don't make excuses. What if that's the way to do it? What if instead of constantly starting something new, constantly looking to do something else, you stick to one thing, you finish and follow through, and you see just how far you could go. Oftentimes when you look at the most successful and wealthy people on earth, you look at the finished product, not realizing that the reason why they got there, the way they were able to reach the pinnacle wasn't by being a jack of all trades, it was by becoming a master of one. What if you finish the job on becoming a master of one? And by becoming that master of one, everything else becomes open. What if you learn to become a closer and finish? And of course, when we're talking about getting something done at a high level, it always comes back to purpose. Why would you ever waste your time becoming a master of anything if you don't have a purpose driving you towards it? Why would you ever take the time to finish and push through, to go through an entire storm if there isn't something powerful, a driving force pushing you through, charging you up to make sure that you get there? You can do it, but there has to be something inside of you, a motor, an engine that says, I'm gonna keep going. That's the thing that's gonna keep you pushing. That's the thing that'll give you the next step, the plan. The next step, the consistency. The next step, the dedication. The next step, the action. The next step, the evaluation, the execution, and results. You gotta have a why. You gotta have a purpose. You gotta have a reason. That's the seed at the root of all the things you do if you want to push through and become that closer that you know you got inside of you. And let me be clear, when I say finish and follow through, it doesn't matter what the thing is you're doing, whether you're in trade school or college, learning culinary to become a chef, or learning computer programming, whatever the thing it is you do, finish the job. Follow through. If you know that's where you should be, if you know you got it in you, if you know all it takes is time and effort and discipline, do what it takes. Don't set yourself up for a life of regret, because nothing is harder. Nothing feels worse than looking back on your life and asking what if. That's a hard road to go down, and it's not necessary if you don't set it up for yourself. What are you doing? Give it your all. Don't halfway do it. Don't make excuses. Don't procrastinate. Don't come up with 1,000,001 reasons why you didn't get it done. Be consistent. Follow through and get the job done. They say life is a competition between you and you. Well, the only you that you can compete with is yesterday, the one that just competed. And if you know for a fact that yesterday you handled business, why wouldn't you do it again? Well, if you did it yesterday, you can do it again today. If you built a little momentum then, you can do it again and again and again. But you gotta keep going, even when it feels hardest, even when it feels darkest. That's when pushing through is gonna give you the best result. Maybe the reason why you're going through it is to help the next generation, to help the next somebody, to be able to tell them, I went through that. I know what it looks like. I've been there and I can help you with it. You owe it to yourself to find out just how great you could become, just how far you could go, just how high you can rise, and just what exactly you could achieve if you maxed out, if you really put your mind to it, if you really locked in and stop making excuses. You know it's in you. You know you got what it takes. Start to execute and then finish the deal. No excuses. This is the infinite evolution. Most things worth having come at a price. And not only do they come at a price to acquire, but there's often something you gotta do just to maintain, just to keep it running and functional, whether it's a relationship or wealth or business or whatever. If you want the best at the highest level, there's something you gotta be willing to give in return, because it doesn't come for free. The same is true of greatness. If you know for a fact that you want to be at the top, you're gonna have to give something. You're gonna have to trade in something. The laziness, the effort, the social media, the TV, the distractions, all of the things that keep you from being where you need to are gonna have to be put into perspective, along with discipline and action and results and planning and consistency and doing what it takes in order to get to where you need to be. No longer is it acceptable to sit on your dreams and simply let them fester. You gotta do something with them. Greatness demands accountability. Your gifts require discipline and consistency. But are you willing to give it? Are you dedicated to doing just that? Are you dedicated to showing and proving that you have what it takes and are willing to do it? Even your genius needs structure in order to produce at the highest level. But what are you giving to it? How are you feeding into the gifts that you've been blessed with? That's rare, and it starts with purpose. And if you can be one of the ones who is just consistent, who shows up and finishes the job, thinking about this, respecting this, and doing what it takes to finish, this is the infinite evolution. Ideas are a dime a dozen. Everybody has them. The real question is, who's gonna execute? Who's gonna develop the plan? Who's gonna take the action? Who's gonna be consistent? Who's gonna revise? Who's willing to fail a few times in order to win just one time and start to build the momentum? It's very few people, but if you can be one of the ones, your limit is infinite. And this is why, now more than ever, you gotta finish what you started. This is the infinite evolution.